Got it? All right. Hey, guys. How you doing? Welcome to Keto Paleo Live. Here we are on another beautiful Sunday in Michigan. Starting to get cold. Notice got the toque on. Beard's growing long. That's something we do up here in the north. So anyway, what we're going to talk about today is keto and your goals. For those of you that are new to keto or have been doing it for a while, there may be some confusion and whatnot. So today we're going to talk about different reasons to do keto and different ways to do keto and what maybe that looks like. Okay, so a lot of you are being brought into keto for fat loss or weight loss, and that's a real popular avenue. It always is. What's the trendy latest diet and stuff like that. But a lot of you may also not know that keto is used for a lot of different things. Originally used in clinical uses for kids with epilepsy and helping them control their seizures and whatnot. Something new to the keto world is it's a great tool to fight against type 2 diabetes, and a lot of research being done now on combating cancer, different types of cancers, maybe not all of them, but putting them into remission. So you have all these branches of keto coming around. Some guys are using them, like I said, for fat loss, and it's very effective for a lot of people, helping kids with seizures, metabolic diseases like type 2 diabetes. And the long and short of it, from the 50,000-foot view, a lot of that has to do with your body's insulin response and getting that carbohydrate out of there. Type 2 diabetes, for example, is a perfect example, repeating myself, for something that's completely controlled by diet, or at least 95% of the way controlled by diet. If you know someone who's type 2 diabetic, or you yourself is type 2 diabetic, you can combat that with just changing your diet. And a lot of times, going ketogenic for a while, if not forever, is a great tool to do that, because you're lowering your overall carbohydrate level most of the time to under 50 grams of carbohydrate a day. So if you don't have a need for an insulin response, your body can start resetting itself and repairing itself. And there's a lot of people out there that just don't know that. And for example, the ADA's recommended diet is for the most part a high carb diet. So if you're on that and you're not seeing the results, or you're just keeping up in your meds, a ketogenic diet is something you might want to look into. Okay, so we got keto in your goals. There's a lot of different ways to do that, and a lot of times it comes down to adjusting ratios. Okay, some guys are big into ratios, so if you have, sometime you've seen out there in a clinical study someone eating something keto 4-to-1. What that stems from is they'll take a total calorie count from your fat calories and divide it by calories from protein and carbohydrate, and that's how they come up with that ratio. Sometimes you see new products now rated at 2-to-1, 3-to-1, sometimes even 4-to-1. If you haven't heard the new one of Jimmy Moore's new podcasts, when he interviews the guys from Keto Pet, they talk about a 4-to-1 diet. That's what they're talking about there. Some guys, like on the fat loss thing, will calculate a BMR, and there's a couple of different ways to calculate BMRs out there depending on what your goals are. I am a fan of the Harris-Benedict formula because it puts an age coefficient in there too. Are these perfect math problems? No, they're not. So remember science and art form as you keep going. But you can figure out a total calorie count and then adjust your macros. And when I say adjust your macros, I mean, for those of you that are really new, your protein, carbohydrate, and fats on a calorie level. So different ratios for different goals. In an epileptic or a clinical world, if you got a kid that's fighting it, a lot of times it's like 10% carbohydrate and 90% fat, or something of a real high ratio. They feel that high elevated ketone levels are an advantage in some of these metabolic diseases. So sometimes you'll see a high ratio like that. In the bodybuilding world, sometimes you'll figure out a bodybuilding or power building world, you'll see more of a ratio of, let's say, 5% carbohydrate, 35% calories from protein, and then 60% from fat. They feel that a little more protein in your diet is warranted for the muscle building that you're doing. arguably, either way. I traditionally use a 5-25-70, but I also do a keto paleo approach. So I've found here in the gym that sometimes that dairy is a different variable. And we've talked about that before on how some dairies, even though may not raise your glucose level, but may have trigger a certain insulin response, slowing you down. So not to mention that I'm on the optimal health bandwagon for that. So for those of you that have watched these before know that I started paleo and came over to keto. So things that I learned about immune responses and protein mimicry and anti-nutrients coming from the paleo world, I kept those foods out and brought it over to the keto world looking for that added advantage. So I wanted to stay healthy, an optimal health platform, and then added a ketogenic level to it for performance. And it's working out really well for me. So we also have, there's a cyclical keto diet. There's some of the guys in the bodybuilding world really like doing this. And some of them, what they'll do is they'll throw a high carb meal in there once a week. Some guys might even do once a day where they don't eat a lot of fat with a high carb meal. I've seen guys do it very effectively once a week, but they have different goals in mind. So they're looking for a look, not necessarily the performance from a ketogenic diet or necessarily the optimal health from keeping like a junk sugar out of there. So you'll see these guys, they'll go hardcore for a week, keto, then one meal a week, they'll fast leading up to that meal, have a high carb diet with low fat, and then switch right back over to keto after that. And some of the bodybuilders are noticing a huge pump, even leaning out more, cycling it that way. So there's other ways. Targeted keto diet, some guys will carb load a little bit, and a little bit, maybe going from 50 grams to 100 grams, and a pre-workout meal. That's been pretty effective for some guys. And like I said, there's just other ways to go about this. So you have clinical reasons or ways to fight metabolic disease. You have guys that are going for a look, so keep that in mind. So you're going to see a lot of different opinions out there. And keep in mind, it's science and art form. So what might not work for you might work for someone else. So that brings me to, Keto Check 2.0 is coming out soon. I'm going to put some cookie cutter recommendations in there. There's going to be a BMR aspect in there. I'm going to use the Harris-Benedict formula that uses an age coefficient in there. A lot of you are new to this. A lot of you are starting out. You need introductory numbers. Okay? You need a place to start. As you get further along, depending on your individual needs, things are going to change. So if you decide that what works for you the first week when you're 40% body fat, or first few months, and then all of a sudden you find yourself at 15% body fat, that formula, or your formula, may not look the same to you. Like I said, science and art form the whole time we go. That being said, I think I covered everything I wanted to do. There's BMRs. There's a couple of them out there. Find a basal metabolic rate. That's how many calories you burn in a day, and then you can adjust your ratios to fill in that blank. If you want to up your protein a little bit, if you're more on that power building or bodybuilding bandwagon, look into that. Keto Gains is a good resource for that. A lot of guys doing that, even some cyclical and targeted keto diets. Okay, I keep in keto probably 10 months a year, but I do it for a performance standpoint. I find that if I stay fat adapted, or get fat adapted, which is 4 to 6 weeks, and stay fat adapted, my performance gets perpetually better, less oxidative stress, and I just flat out feel better. And I'm 44 years old, or I'm going to be 44 on Halloween. So there we go, you guys. Those are just some different ways to attack a ketogenic diet. You guys probably see things all over the place. Hey, where should I start? Where should my macros be? My best guess is find out what your goals are. Find someone or a page that had like goals. Go to keto-paleo.com. I got a lot of information on there. There's lots of Facebook pages popping up. I mentioned Keto Gains. Quest Keto is getting ready to launch one. We're going to keep a ton of information on there. There's ketogenic diet success. There's just a ton of information coming from every different angle. Message me. I'll point you in the right direction or offer my 2 cents. So anyway, keto in your goals today. If you got questions, shoot them to me. This is your Keto Daddy telling you eat like you care about yourself, and we'll see you next week. See ya. Bye.